Well, technical. Hey, everybody, how's it going? It's Carlos, your host of the Just Fans podcast. Next to me, we got the dying Rios over here who's coughing up a lung. How's it going, Rios?
I feel better now.
Do
Bloody
you?
Mary definitely helps.
Yeah, I bet. Anyway, he's over here next to me, and he's like, I swear it's not COVID, I promise. I had to look at him awkwardly for like 2 seconds. I was like, okay. But yeah, the whole time. So maybe you'll see Rios going, like three times, about a couple times out throughout the podcast today.
Or not.
Or not. We'll see. Yeah, if you do that, just ignore it. Try to. It's just like what we do. We just ignore whatever ailment Rios has. He survived 200 years of.
I survived a couple plagues.
Yeah, he survived a couple plagues, so we'll see.
A couple plagues, couple
Yeah.
pandemics, and here I am.
Couple
Strong
pandemics.
as ever.
There you go. How was the Spanish flu like?
Very similar to COVID.
Yeah, was it? Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got week 3 today. Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Houston Texans. Uh, man, I kind of want to be a little optimistic. We're gonna get to the details, the stats, and all that for this, but there.
Which is a pretty drastic drop.
Hold on, yeah, we're
Especially-
having internet problems. Hold on one second.
Especially considering the injuries.
Yeah. Repeat that one more time. I don't know.
Yeah, so they were Jags as favorites.
Ah.
It dropped after they work him up to 7.5 point favorites, which
Right.
normally doesn't happen. Usually it goes up.
Do you know what's that for the Jaguars today?
As far as major players, they don't have a ton of major injuries
True.
that I can think of.
No, they it looks like it's going to be kind of like a pretty good test for CJ again, obviously because he has no O line. But
Right.
let's look at a little bit of the numbers really quick, and we can build off of what we probably expect to see today, based off of some of the stats from last week. So, week 3, Texans versus Jaguars. So CJ Stroud on week 2 against the Colts, he looked pretty solid. He had 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, QB rating of 103.5, and no interceptions, which I thought was pretty much key over there. He was solid, I would say, and with what he had to work with, average, was it above 90 is pretty good, and he was at 103.5. So for QB rating. So what do you think of CJ's performance last week?
They looked pretty impressive, especially considering there was zero run support.
Yeah.
He's pretty much under pressure almost every snap. So him to put up those kind of numbers, some people argue, they were garbage time stats. They were still in the game until the fourth quarter. We were a missed field goal away from making it a one possession game, so we were still in it. So it wasn't like they were playing prevent the whole time. So I don't know. It's not unfair to say all those yards were garbage time. Like they were still in the game until the very last possession. Those were garbage time stats. That's like 30 yards.
Right. No, I agree with you. One of the things that I really liked about CJ is the fact that he disperses to different receivers is pretty evenly, I'd like to say. For example, Robert Woods, last week he had 9 targets, 6 receptions for 74 yards. Okay, that's just Robert Woods. Then you had Tank Dell, who had 10 targets, 7 receptions for 72 yards, and a touchdown.
Should have had a second one, but
Should have had a second one, but
terrible call.
terrible calls, yeah. And then we had Nico Collins, who was a star last week, 9 targets, 7 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown.
Wide receiver one numbers.
It looks like from what I saw last week, it looks like CJ's starting to get a little bit more comfortable again, and it's hard to say because obviously, he's surrounded with basically the backup offensive line, the backups of the backups, if you will.
Right? Third
Yeah,
and fourth string guys.
Third and fourth string guys. He doesn't have an O line to save his life, and yet he's still racking up these type of numbers. Again, 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, and again 100.35 rating. And he's able to use 3 different receivers, so he doesn't become just one dimensional. And then on top of that, you don't have that much run support from Damian Pierce this year.
at all.
So, I mean, so far in the last 2 weeks.
We're averaging like 62 yards rushing a game, which
Right.
is near the bottom of the league, which is pretty bad.
It's awful. It's big time regression, but we'll get into a little bit of Damian Pierce in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out like how how CJ Stroud has basically been the bright spot for the last 2 weeks for the Texans offense. Again, he's doing whatever he can with what he's got. Basically, the entire O line is on injury reserve right now, with the exception of Shaq Mason, and that's it. Laramie Tunsil had practice this week, but he's still out this week, so that's going to be. I feel like that's going to be a key. That's going to be a factor in today's performance. I still expect C.J. Stroud. I expect him to go at least over 200 yards today. What do you think?
Well, he basically they I think Pat Starr put out that no, Patrick Storm, excuse me.
Yeah.
He had put out that CJ need about 213 yards to be fifth all time as far as
Yeah.
rookies in the first 3 games.
I think it's attainable today. I want to
Very.
say it's attainable because I'm not too impressed with that Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. You know.
No, because their defense is giving up. I got to pull up right here. They're giving up about 264 yards in the air,
So
which is about middle of the pack of the league. Not the best, not terrible either,
Mhm.
but
it's not too
they're exploitable.
right. It's. I wanted to compare it to the Ravens pass defense. I mean, that one I felt like that was a lot more difficult. I feel like that one's going to be more. That Ravens pass defense was more difficult than I think the Jacksonville Jaguars pass defense is going to be. Let's take a look last week. So against Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I understand it is against Patrick Mahomes. The Jacksonville Jaguars pass defense gave up 305 yards and 2 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes had close to 100% rating for a quarterback. Um,
I
so
mean,
that's
for Mahomes, 300 is the norm.
right. For Mahomes, it's 300 is the norm, but I mean, based on the struggles with his wide receivers, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's the numbers
Well,
he was able to put up.
it did help having Kelsey back. It
Right.
kind of helped a smidge.
Right, it's help a little bit, right? So as far as the Jacksonville Jaguars pass rush, they outperformed us for sure from last week. They had 1 sack on 42 dropbacks. It doesn't that stat alone doesn't show much. It doesn't. It seems like how do you call it? They weren't so aggressive, I guess, on rushing the QB, but knowing that CJ Stroud doesn't have the best O line, you're willing to bet that they're going to put some pressure on him again.
Engage 8 again.
Gauge eight. So yeah, the Texans O line issues continue. Again, like I said, Laramie Tunsil is out today. Last week, CJ Stroud took 6 sacks, and then the previous week he took 5. He's at 11 sacks in 2 games.
That's no bueno.
No, not at all. So usually about 30% of QB pressures is already considered high. At 30%, he was at 47.2.
Which
So
is very high.
above the norm. One of the things that obviously doesn't help, and I do have to call CJ on that, he does hold on to the ball quite a bit, and that's something that he has to learn through experience. I mean, it is what it is. He does hold it for a bit, but I understand why sometimes you just have to throw. He has to learn to throw it away sometimes.
Yeah, some of those sacks, it was him just taking unnecessary punishment. Like, just throw the
Right.
ball away.
Throw the ball away
Live
and
another down.
live another down. That's one of those things that he has to get used to. So that's one of the reasons why his sack count is also so high because of that. Holds onto the ball or throw it away. That's a must. He needs to understand that. But hey, again, you have with the old line that you have. I mean, I get it. It's got to be tough trying to figure that all out at the same time. Let's talk about Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce, who
Milk carton.
yeah, where he's on the milk carton. Where is he? He has not. We have not really seen much of him. So week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, he had 11 rushing attempts for 38 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. That's game 1. Him and Lamar Jackson had the exact number of yards that game, 38. Okay, more into comparison of why Lamar Jackson's a running back.
Right.
Right. And then, so we thought, okay, maybe it's game on. Bobby Slowick's over here messing up with the play calling. Maybe week 2 against the Colts should have been a lot better. Nope, it was actually worse.
They tried to establish the run early, but it just wasn't
It
working.
wasn't working,
And
and
then they got in the big hole. Like, not, I wouldn't say they had to abandon it, but they kind of had to be more. You saw their best personnel group was the 11 personnel. That's where
right,
they had the most success.
right,
So I think this week that should be the focus, staying in the 11 formation. Because it
right.
gives CJ the most he gives him the most targets on the field, and it's when he has looked the best so far.
And also, it takes away from that from the pass rush on him. It gives a little, alleviates some of that pressure on him
Because
as well.
you can spread them out so they can't send the box. They can't stack the box basically.
Yeah, and I will say, even though a lot of those numbers look pretty good on CJ, I mean, a lot of it is because he doesn't have a lot of help from Damian Pierce. And I'm not saying that it's Damian Pierce is like him alone has been regressing. It a lot of it could attribute to the type of O line that we have. Maybe they're not creating any enough opportunities for him to get through. So you can attribute that to the O line. I think you can make up your mind if you really do feel like it's Damian Pierce, then that's when when you'll have majority of the O line back from the IR, and it's still not you're still seeing the same amount of carries or the same amount of yards or yards per carry from Damian Pierce. Then at that point you really start to wonder, hey, what's going on with Damian Pierce?
I think right now it's a little bit of both. Because he lost the weight in the offseason, I guess, because we're going to a zone running scheme, so it didn't necessarily be a bulldozer. But now with all these O line missing, he's missing that ability to run people over like he had last year.
Right, baby beast mode as we call him. And so now. Uh, like I said, he against Baltimore he had 11 carry attempts, 38 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Well, last week against the Colts he had 15 attempts, which is just four more than what he had at the beginning. Uh, and now he rushed for 31 yards, which was like just 7 yards less than against the Baltimore Ravens with 2.1 yards per carry. So it was a much worse performance really with more attempts.
Well, some of that can be attributed to basically the back what's going out
Right.
there.
Yeah, at that point, it's just weird. So Texans and Bobby Slowick need to establish the run. You and I predicted that Damian Pierce would go at least over 1,000 yards this season, and at this rate, I just don't see it happening. If it continues, I don't see this happening. So that's
They'll be looking to crack 500 at this rate.
yeah. At this point, it's like if he cracks like 500, that would be a miracle at that point. So now, let's talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence. So, yes, last week, Trevor Lawrence against the Kansas City defense, he ended it with 216 yards, 5.3 yards per average, and then he had a QB rating of 68.8. Okay, so those were Trevor Lawrence's numbers. So the Texans defense struggled against Gardner Minshew. Sorry, it's just funny to say Gardner Minshew, and they made him look like Peyton Manning for no after Richardson went out.
Right, but it's
He
based on our history. That's what happens every single time we play a backup.
and the worst part about this is, I know that our defense or our pass defense or yeah, our secondary, I always call it a no-fly zone, but now you got Stingley out for 6 to 8 weeks, man. How do you think we're gonna handle that?
That's a big blow
It's a big loss.
because he's done a pretty good job of shutting down his side. There's not a lot of targets side of the field. Doesn't allow because it doesn't have no corner field.
That's true. Texans are gonna suffer. Are gonna
And you
suffer.
also see Tevir Thomas with a broken hand.
Yeah, Xavier Thomas is out. So yeah, I mean the Texans did sign number 30. Give me 1 second. I forgot his name off the top of my head.
His last name is Houston, ironically.
Houston Gardner, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I have him here. So Houston Gardner. No, I'm sorry, DeAndre. Yeah, DeAndre Houston Carson. I apologize, Carson. Big difference on it. They signed him to try to replace. I mean, Stingley on the field, but it's just
He's,
nowhere near
he's basically
close.
there for depth. Basically.
Yeah, it's just that because I didn't. There was not much on him as far as he came from Chicago and he was a 2016 6th round pick. So obviously you're not really going to get much out of him. Overall, like his last season in Chicago, he had just about 26 solo tackles, 19 assists, one forced fumble, and one interception. So not really much. on the stats, I guess, but he's just there for depth to cover you down.
Depth and special teams.
Yeah, depth and special teams at the most. So that's we got Houston Carson, DeAndre Houston Carson. So hopefully some of those stats can be shown for the Texans during the meantime that Stingley comes in. But yeah, I think definitely, like you said, it's going to be a big blow for the Texans defense. Um, Gardner Minshew picked apart MJ Stewart last week. He took his lunch money, made him wash his car, and made him pick up his dry cleaning. That's how bad.
And took his mom out on a date.
All right, there you go. Was it Zach Wilson now? And so, yeah, he made MJ Stewart look silly, man. He picked him apart, made him look ridiculous. Like, made him look like a rookie. So I honestly think that but now we got Jimmy Ward back today, so that should be helpful for the Texans passing defense. But again, we
And
stick
for the
with
tackling as well.
yeah, and for the tackling as well, because that's been atrocious, dude. Missed tackles, bad angles. I mean, it's easy for me to say while I'm sitting here, say that while I'm sitting here, and I know that's much tougher out on the field. But I mean, when it's apparent and a guy like me can see that, I mean, come on, you got to call it out, right?
Pretty much, like it's you've played at any level of football, middle school, high school, college. They always emphasize the fundamentals of tackling, taking the right angle, and wrapping him up and bringing him to the ground. Don't try to tackle him with your arm. You're not the Rock. You're not gonna knock them down with your arms.
Yeah. No, exactly. And going back to Gardner Minshew, I mean, he just picked us apart down the middle or anywhere that MJ Stewart was. So that's going to be one of those areas for the Texans to try to fix. But again, with Jimmy Ward back, that gives me a little bit more of more optimism, because I mean, Jimmy Ward doesn't play around.
No.
We saw him take down Dalton Schultz in practice, and everybody heard it within almost 100-foot radius.
Right? Sent that man to the shadow realm.
Yeah, he laid him out for what was it, 2 weeks? He couldn't practice for like 2 weeks.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I do want to see Jimmy Ward out there on the field. So that should be some interesting. Jalen Petre's still out with the bruised lung that he suffered during the Baltimore game.
Yeah, hopefully he's back by next week.
Yeah, I think he should be back next week, but that's definitely a big blow for us. But
And Perryman's out too.
Perriman's out too, so
That
that's
means the field's gonna be wide open.
exactly. So I wanted to talk a little bit on Evan Ingram. Speaking of that, because Evan Ingram, now he hasn't put up big numbers, but he's been consistent. He's had 5 targets on week one against Indy, when they played against Indy, 5 receptions, 49 yards. Last week against Kansas City, he had 8 targets, 6 receptions for 57 yards. I mean, that still eats a small chunk of the field, but if you think about it, those are first downs that are extended, and that's
Yeah.
been a big problem with the Texas defense, staying on the field longer than you should. Those third down conversions that they're allowing the opposite
They were
team,
killing us last week.
they were detrimental for what the Texans suffered last week. There was a big part of the loss. I mean, you're wearing yourself out essentially.
Yeah, because your defense stays on the field, they get more tired, and that opens up the running game for the opposing team,
Yeah,
which they took advantage of because at that point the defense was gassed.
yeah, and that's the thing, because the Texans went against freaking Zach Moss, who ran 88 yards on him and was averaging 4.9 yards per carry, and he scored a touchdown on him.
Having a career day.
He was having a career day, looking like, what'd you say, Deion Sanders out there?
Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders, yeah, Barry Sanders out there, just completely just dominating the Texans' run defense, man. But yeah, it's because of that. They stay longer than they should on defense on the field, and I mean, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So that's what I'm thinking. What about you? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think this week they're gonna be really tested in that middle of the field, not just with Ingram, but with Christian Kirk and with Etienne as well. Because Trevor Lawrence, he likes to throw a lot of short throws, and I think with the missing Perriman, he's probably one of your best covering linebackers.
Right.
So they're probably their game focus is going to be hitting that middle of the field, basically, death by a thousand cuts. Just slowly moving down the field with these short throws, picking up key first downs. So they're definitely going to be. I expect a shootout, honestly. 'Cause
Yeah.
both
Think so.
defenses give up a lot of yards.
They do. And again, it's something that you and I weren't expecting from this Texans defense
at all.
at
I
all.
was expecting a top 10 unit because
Yeah.
they were pretty solid last year with, on paper, a worse roster. I get the injuries happen, but still, it's just.
Yeah, it was sad watching that. But yeah, to give you a clue of, like you said, it's a shootout just because of how our defense performed. Gardner Minshew last week had 112.1 QB rating with a touchdown. We made him look like a superstar, also, like I said. So, I mean, it's something that definitely needs to be fixed on the defensive end of the ball. Speaking of the how do you call it of the
Yeah, because both teams basically they give up. So the Texans right now are allowing about 316 yards a game.
yeah
Jaguars around 350.
yeah
So they're both teams are giving up a lot of yards, mostly through the air. Surprisingly,
right no exactly surprisingly because again we should have a top ranked um, pass defense or secondary at
so
least.
with us, basically the yards are pretty split even, which is not good. So basically, the Texans are 198 yards passing, 198 yards passing through the air,
Yeah.
and then about 118 on the ground. And for the Jaguars, most of those yards come through the air. They're allowing 264 yards through the air,
Uh-huh.
but they're able to shut down the run. They're allowing just 83 yards rushing a game. So I think it's going to be one of those games where we don't see a lot of rushing from Pierce.
Again, that's a problem though.
Well, what we saw last week, their offense moved better when they were a passing first team.
Yeah.
And I think this week it's going to be we're going to see CJ in the shotgun a lot this week.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see them. They're going to
See
use
the
his
shotgun,
arm.
the 11 personnel. I think they're going to use the pass to set up the run.
Yeah, I think so too.
They're going to have to this week because
they need to.
4 backup O linemen and
Yeah.
you got a stout Jaguars front seven. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of. Like I said, I predict a shootout. It's going to be a lot of passing.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Texans pass rush really quick. We were talking about so we predicted at least one sack on our pregame show last week from Will Anderson, but sadly, the Terminator himself was shot down by Sarah Connor, which was Gardner Minshew. You like that?
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Texans on 33 dropbacks, the Texans had 0 sacks.
0.
Nada.
I think there was like 1 QB hit and 1 QB rush. That was about it. Like that was just terrible. Those guys had all day to throw. They had time to take a nap, read a book,
watch the show. Yeah, man, exactly. We didn't see anything of Will Anderson last week.
They weren't double teaming. He was just shut down by the right tackle. Just completely took that man's lunch too.
He did.
So this week, the Jaguars tackles, they were a little bit more beatable than the Colts tackles.
Yeah.
So I expect them to have a bounce back game because.
Yeah, we'll see how Will Anderson and the rest of the Texans Skynet defense goes against Trevor Lawrence. We'll see.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
No, I think
just do the Arnold voice.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. I know. Anyway, that was dumb. And so
no, but I expect both defensive coordinators to basically send the house against these 2 young quarterbacks.
No, I agree. See, last week against the Chiefs, Trevor got sacked 4 times. 4 times along with, and he got like 7 QB hits also. So, I mean, the only thing is Trevor. Even though that sounds bad, there wasn't much pressure on Trevor Lawrence also, though. So now one of the things is the Jacksonville Jaguars receivers. So on week 1, Christian Kirk was non-existent at all.
Yeah.
Like it almost looked like he hadn't showed up. So, but last week though, he had 14 targets, 11 receptions, and 110 yards, and showed up.
I expect to have a similar game because I think they're going to put Steven Nelson on Ridley.
Yeah.
So that should slow him down a little bit. So I think Christian Kirk can have another big game because he's going to feast in that middle of the field.
Yeah, I think so too. That middle of the field is going to hurt us with that.
Like Henry To'oTo'o and Christian Harris, man, they got to step up.
Yeah, they do. They really do got to step that up because it's bad.
I get they're young, but y'all getting a chance to start with these injuries, so you got to take advantage of these chances because you don't know when you're going to get another chance to start again.
It's true. So that's honestly, that's the only receiver that I'm really worried about. Other than that, gambling Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones only had like 32 yards combined. And Jones actually hurt his knee last week also. So really just Evan Ingram and
I think
Christian
I
Kirk.
think yeah, I think Zay Jones is out this week.
Is yeah. So yeah,
So
'cause
he's
he
out.
hurt his no, he hurt his knee.
So Christian Kirk's gonna have another big game. Ingram, as long as he can keep him getting those key first downs, should be in
Yeah,
okay shape. The one that worries me is Etienne because he's a
yeah,
big time threat running the ball and catching it out of the
yeah.
backfield.
Exactly. And again, like I said, if you were able to give up 88 yards against Zach Moss and had him have like 4.9 yards per carry and a touchdown, Etienne for sure is probably going to run circles around us today.
Yeah,
So, I mean, as long as they fix that stuff, dude. I mean, honestly, I if they can stop Christian Kirk, if they can stop Zach Moss, excuse me, Zach Moss, if they can stop Etienne and they can contain Evan Ingram, I think the Texans have a shot.
they can still in the passing game
Yeah.
because they're not doing too much damage running the ball. Most of their stuff is coming to the air, but it's still not it's not otherworldly numbers. It's like they're having about 213 yards passing.
Yeah, turnovers also. If the Texans can get some turnovers today, that will also be a key factor in a victory today for the Texans. I mean, it sounds honestly, it is quite doable. It is quite doable. It's a winnable game, and you know what's crazy is that these last two, maybe you can argue with the Ravens one, but not even because honestly, Lamar Jackson really didn't have many people to go to besides Zay Flowers, really.
Yeah.
So you can actually make the argument that these last three games were quite winnable for the Texans.
They all were. We weren't out of them. Like we were in every one of those games. They were competitive until the very end.
Right.
I know we were down by almost three scores at one point in the third quarter last week, but they came back. And like I said, they were a missed field goal away from making a one possession game. If Fairburn makes that field goal, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, the momentum definitely would have switched out. I agree with you on that one. But yeah, they do have the work cut out for them. Again, I just want to see a little more Damian Pierce, but again,
Not this week. It's not gonna happen.
that's not going to happen. But hey, I mean that's all I can think of right now for as far as for the
Yeah, I
Jaguars.
think CJ's gonna have a big game passing.
Yeah, I still think he's going to break over 200 yards today.
I'm gonna go a little bit higher because he just needs basically to replicate what he did last week. He needs 387 to have the most yards passing to break Cam Newton's record as a rookie for the first three games. That's the way the Jaguars are picking up yards. I can see him doing that.
Yeah, I agree. The Jaguars are gonna. I think that's gonna inflate his numbers also. I wanted to compare. It's still too early to compare because again, this next quarterback is hurt. I wanted to compare Bryce Young's numbers really quick to CJ.
Oh,
So
they're not even close. CJ has more in one game than Bryce has on the season.
of course, so really quick, excuse me. So right now in the 2023 season, Bryce Young's only got like 299 yards, two touchdowns, two interceptions, and a QB rating
36.
36.3.
Yikes.
Thank you, Levy. No, thank you, Levy. No,
Who would have
honestly,
guessed that would have been a blessing in disguise?
I mean,
It's still too early. You're right. It's still too early, but man, it's
compared to CJ Stroud's stats, right?
626.
Yeah, he's at 36.2 QB rating overall. He has zero interceptions, two touchdowns, but he's at 626 yards. So he's definitely beating him in the yardage, and obviously in the interception percentage also. He hasn't got picked since in his last two games, and I'm hoping it continues.
Right.
You know,
For a long time.
for a long time. Davis Mills would have had 30 interceptions already. No, I'm just kidding. And so
But the one thing CJ does need to work on is his ball security. He's lost two fumbles already.
that's true.
And he almost had a third one last week as well. So he needs to
Yes.
work on his ball security. But again, he's only so much he can do when he's having constant pressure on almost 50% of his dropbacks.
I feel like even though his yards percentage is pretty awesome right now. Once he gets that O line back, I know we keep saying once he gets the O line, whatever. I think
Gets his starters back.
gets the stars back. Titus Howard, Laramie Tunsil,
Juice
Juice
Scruggs.
Scruggs. I mean, that's already good help.
I think by week 5, we'll see what this team can really look like.
Yeah, because once they start doing, I feel like our defense also, since it has been a little bit inconsistent, I feel like our offense is actually going to be a little better than our defense was. And it's funny because we started the season with, oh, our defense is going to be the one that's carrying us, and our offense not really. I do like the CJ and Nico connection, but I also like our dark horse Tank Dell as well. I think he's going
Yeah.
to end up just balling out.
We said I said last week, you got to get him the ball more. Because when he had the ball in week one, like he was making stuff happen, and he keep feeding him the ball. You saw what he did. Took a short pass, took it to the house, and almost had a second touchdown. That should have been a touchdown. Wasn't for that that BS call from the ref.
Yeah, some of those calls were quite questionable. Um, I wasn't too much of a fan of those, but
Bring on the robot umps.
bring on the robots. Yeah,
Especially in baseball.
exactly.
How
So
Angel Hernandez still has a job is
beyond
me.
everybody right now. Yeah. Well,
even him.
yeah, even him. He's wondering why. So what I want to do now is it's a part of the show where we kind of look at the games that are going on today, and let's discuss who do you think is going to win, and yeah, just who do you think is going to win. So let's go out of the AFC South for a second, and let's go with the Falcons and Lions. What are we looking at that one?
The Falcons have been one of those very surprising teams. They're 2-0, and they're not throwing the ball a whole lot. Anyone that owns Kyle Pitts in fantasy, is shaking their fist at Desmond Ritter and the offensive play caller because they're basically it's run, run, and run.
Yeah.
And they've been playing solid defense. The Lions, we know they're a high scoring team.
Yes.
So I think they're gonna have I think the Lions have a bounce back game. They lost last week in overtime.
Yeah.
So I think this week they want to have a bounce back. And I think the Falcons get brought back down there for a little bit.
Agreed. The Lions are a team that should not be taken lightly. It's weird to say that out loud. Say
Right.
that out loud. I mean, Jared
First time it's
Goff.
been said in the last 65
Right.
years.
So yeah, Jared Goff is coming in with 576 yards, four touchdowns, and one interception. Those are pretty good numbers for Jared Goff. And then you got Amon St. Brown, who's got 12 receptions, 173 yards, and one touchdown. I mean, that's pretty good. And then, so Bijan Robinson's he's got 29 carries, 180 yards.
Yeah, he's been electric.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, honestly, this should be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, on paper it should be.
On
good.
paper, it should be a pretty good matchup. Who are you taking, Falcons or Lions?
I'm going Lions.
Lions. I'm going to agree with you on that one. I'm going to say Lions also, just because I think they are, like you said, they're going to have a bounce back game from last week's loss. So I'm going to go with the Lions on that one. All right, let's talk. We got Packers at home against the Saints. Saints are coming in with a 2-0 record. Packers are 1-1. I think this is Jordan Love's first game at
Lambeau.
At Lambeau during the regular season, right? Yeah. Okay.
As a starter, but yeah.
As a starter, excuse me. So Derek Carr's coming in with 533 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. Shocking. He has more interceptions than touchdowns.
To the surprise of absolutely no one.
Yeah. Does anybody know what the temperature is in
Lambeau?
In Lambeau right now? Because if it's cold, Derek Carr is gonna.
Well, not even though, because we had a guy. He basically saw a lot of Derek Carr playing in Kansas City. When the Raiders would play the Chiefs, and he's saying Derek Carr outside is a different quarterback. Similar to how Drew Brees was. Drew Brees was pretty much unstoppable in the Superdome, but on the road, outdoors, just was not the same guy. And Derek Carr is pretty similar. And basically, as he explained it to us, he can't really make those throws outside.
Right. So right now, I mean, the biggest highlights we have from the Saints is really just Taysom Hill. It's funny how they list him as quarterback. 12 carries, 79 yards. Olave, right? 14 receptions, 198 yards. I mean,
I like how they call Taysom Hill a quarterback, but Lamar Jackson's the running back.
Right, exactly. That makes no sense. Wait a minute. This doesn't make sense to me. The math ain't mathing, So yeah, I'm gonna say the Packers on this one. What about you?
Yeah, same.
I like Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love.
He's been a surprise.
He's been surprised. I know that our buddy Nick Botkins, who's a big Packers fan, was like, "Oh God, it's going to be a terrible season." But honestly,
I'm sure he's pleasantly surprised.
Yeah,
Botkins,
Nick Botkins, eh? Yeah. And so shout out to Nick Botkins from the Botkins Show with our friends at Let's Talk Sports Network. But yeah, I'm going to say the Packers on that one. And you said Packers also, right? Yeah. All right. Then we got the 0-2 Broncos coming in against the 2-0 Dolphins. I mean, Tua, it looks ridiculous right now. 715 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Yes, of course, a lot of that has to do with Tyreek Hill, who's 60 receptions, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns. But then you also have Raheem Mostert, 28 carries, 158 yards, 3 touchdowns. Was on my fantasy.
They're pretty balanced as far as offense goes.
They
Like last
really
year,
are.
their running game wasn't that great, but this year,
Picked
Mostert
it up.
Mostert stepped it up a little bit. Hopefully, he can stay healthy, and yet also have a chain who can open up your playbook as well.
Please stay healthy because goodness gracious, I have you on fantasy. And
I do too.
I can't afford to lose it. I lost Nick Chubb in my fantasy.
Ouch.
I know. So Raheem Mostert is gonna accredit to my yardage
Yeah,
because
I lost Dobbins week one,
there's,
so
there's no way that I can rely on Joe Mixon.
no.
No. So yeah, Raheem Mostert, please go off on the Broncos.
Well, Jalen Waddle's out, so I think Tyreek's
Yeah.
gonna have one of those 200-yard games.
Yeah, I think
he's
Tyreek.
he's about to eat today.
Exactly. He's about to feast. Tyreek Hill's about to feast today with Miami. So I expect good things from Miami. I expect Miami to get the dub on that one. You?
Yeah, it should be a
Yeah,
blowout.
should be a blowout. Yeah.
For us, has not. Ah, man, the Sean Payton experience not working so far.
Good thing we didn't get him.
Right? I didn't want him in the first place.
I didn't want him in the first place too. He would have been too high. Oh, he would have been. There you go. Microphone's working. He would have been too high. What did they want? The Saints wanted like a first pick or something like that.
They
First
wanted
round?
the first round pick.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. We'll stay with D'Amico any day of the week because of microphone. All right. Chargers, Vikings are both 0-2 teams. They're playing in Minnesota.
Ooh, that should be a good matchup on paper.
Yeah,
Basically, it's a must win for both teams because the way their division's set up, you can't go 0-3.
that's true. What's so funny?
Especially the Chargers. You
Yeah.
same division as the Chiefs.
But even like Kirk Cousins, you can call it trash time or whatever, but I mean, he's got 708 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception.
They're not losing because of Kirk Cousins. That
Yeah.
defense can't stop anybody. And I
That's
think
true.
getting rid of Dalvin Cook was a mistake.
I think so
Madison,
too.
Madison's good in small spurts, but when you know he's the primary back, he's not a running back one. So it's a good thing they signed up. They got Cam Akers. That definitely
Sorry,
helps.
it's just funny to say like Kirk Cousins is not the reason why the Vikings are losing. Isn't it weird to say?
Who had that on their bingo card for
Right.
2023?
Who had that under the bingo card?
Not I.
Nope. So we got Kelly from the Chargers? 29 carries, 130 yards, 1 touchdown. Seems about, I guess, average. Justin Jefferson's coming in with 20 receptions, 309 yards. That's pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
Pretty good. So obviously Kirk Cousins' favorite target. What do you
Yeah,
think
that's
about
true.
Addison?
Jordan, he's been pretty solid. Again, it helps having the best receiver in the league on the other side of the field. So
Yeah.
it makes things a little bit easier for him. He's getting a lot of one-on matchups, and Cousins is a pretty accurate quarterback.
Yeah. So stop. This is weird to say that out loud.
I know.
Kirk Cousins.
Hey, I give credit where credit is due.
Is this a noon game? This is a noon game.
Yeah.
That's why.
Kirk Cousins' time to shine,
It's Kirk Cousins' time to shine. Once he has a Sunday night game, we're gonna see complete regression.
right?
Yeah.
But
So
before 3 o'clock, that man's Tom Brady.
yeah, I'm gonna take the Vikings on this one.
I'm gonna go Chargers.
You want to go Chargers on that one?
I think this game means a lot. This game is more must win for them than it is for the Vikings.
Okay. All right. Well, you're wrong. Okay. No.
Remember,
Yeah.
they play the same division as the Chiefs.
It's true.
You can't fall that far behind.
Yeah. You can't. So for sure, Vikings for me, Chargers for Rios. Okay. Then we got another one. I believe it's a division rivalry: Jets versus Patriots. We got the 0-2 Patriots going against the 1-1 Jets. Let's look at some stats here.
Belichick is rubbing his hands like Birdman.
He's like, all right. We got Matt Jones at 547 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. All right. Then we got Garrett Wilson for the Jets, 7 receptions, 117 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Pretty good. And Hall, the Jets' running back, 14 carries, 136 yards. How are we liking that matchup, Rios? I mean, it's a division rivalry, so you know it's going to be pretty.
Should be close, but knowing Belichick, he's been planning all week for himself. We're going to see at least 3.
Okay, we'll repeat that again just in case.
Yeah, so I think Belichick's been game planning all week for Zach Wilson. So I expect at least 3 or 4 turnovers from Zach Wilson alone.
Yes, the great. Exactly, I agree with that. I think he's Palpatine himself. Bill Belichick is planning.
Darth Sidious.
Darth Sidious. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm gonna go with. I like the little. I know the Jets are 1-1. I like the little mojo they got going on. I'm gonna go with the Jets on this one.
All right, I'm going to go go Patriots.
Patriots, yeah. Just because of Bill Belichick's planning?
Yeah, and also I have Hunter Henry in fantasy, so I need him to.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. You're totally biased.
Unbiased, completely unbiased.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the surprising 2-0 Commanders against the 1-1 Bills. Yeah, I'll take some more water. Appreciate it. Want another beer for you? Oh, wait, no. Was it Bloody Mary for you?
Yeah.
You drunk. Yeah, he'll have a Bloody Mary as well.
The breakfast of
he'll have-
champions.
You what?
The breakfast
Bre-
of
You
champions.
say that about Guinness. And now Bloody Mary.
Alcohol's alcohol.
As long as it has that ingredient now. Anyway, Bills Commanders, 2-0 Commanders. Surprise, surprise. Against the 1-1 Bills. They're playing in Washington today. So let's see what we got. We got Allen is playing. He's got 510 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So that touchdown to interception ratio is not so good right now, bro.
And there's not a lot of talk about his turnovers in the national
Yeah.
media. It's always about everyone else except Josh Allen.
Josh
He's
Allen, yeah.
been a turnover machine since last season.
Yeah. Then we got Stephon Diggs, 17 receptions, 168 yards, and a touchdown so far in week
Pretty
2.
pedestrian numbers for him.
Yeah. And Cook, we got 29 carries for Buffalo and 169 yards. I mean, that's what he's got to work with ever since Singletary
most of
left.
those came from last week.
Yeah, and that's about it. So, if I were to guess, I'm going to say the Commanders on this one. I don't see the Bills that serious this season.
We had mentioned it a couple times on different shows in the offseason. We see the Bills taking a step back this year.
They did horribly,
especially in that division.
So, do you think a lot of it is because of Josh Allen?
Those turnovers don't help.
Yeah.
And there's something going on in the locker room. Like, they don't seem like the same team. Like, especially since that playoff game last year. Like, they just don't seem like you don't see the same camaraderie in the sidelines we did last year.
Yeah. Something internal's going on probably with them, but yeah, that obviously, like you said, Josh Allen's numbers don't help out either. Those interceptions, touchdowns. Yes, he got 4 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions don't help out either.
Yeah, this early in the season, got more picks than games played.
Yeah, looking like Dak Prescott out there. You hear that? There you go. Then we got. Let's go back a little bit to our rivalry. So, how do you call it? Anthony Richardson's out today. Coming in is Sarah Connor himself, Gardner Minshew, because he completely handled, Will Anderson terminated last week. So we got the Colts versus Ravens. Colts are 1-1. Ravens are 2-0. They're playing at home with the Ravens, I believe. Yeah, Baltimore Stadium. So the Ravens are 1-0 at home. Lamar Jackson's at 406 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Again, the interception. The touchdown radio, yeah. So highlights from them: we got the running back Edwards, 18 carries, 94 yards, 1 touchdown. The yardage seems a little low on him for being week 2.
Yeah,
not
where you want it to be, but what I've seen from the Ravens, they look like they're trying to pass the ball a lot more. I think Lamar's realizing I can't keep taking hits.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't gotten hurt from taking a big hit, it's
still
seeing these other quarterbacks. I'm sure he's thinking in the back of his mind, I need to really learn to pass from the pocket, especially as I get closer to age 30.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm going to take, then you got Michael Pittman, who's just basically the standout for Indy at 16 receptions, 153 yards, and a touchdown. So honestly, on this one, dude, I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Same.
I think the Ravens win it. Okay. Now let's go into Panthers Seahawks. It's the Seahawks they're playing at home against the Panthers. Bryce Young is not playing today. To me, that's going to be a Seahawks win.
Should be a blowout.
Yeah, it should be a blowout. Geno Smith has had 3 touchdowns. He's been playing out of his mind. 440 yards. Yeah, the yardage isn't all that, but he's got no turnovers on him. No interceptions. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's been real solid. And the running game is starting to pick it up this year. I think if Kenneth Walker can stay healthy, should have a big season. And I also have him in fantasy, so
yeah,
I need him to put up numbers.
I got DK Metcalf in fantasy, so he's got 9 receptions, 122 yards, a touchdown. Let's inflate those numbers, y'all. I want him to play.
Give me 200 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for too much.
Bears Chiefs. That's
oh my
God, Chiefs all day.
That's gonna be one of those. They basically turn it off at halftime to put on a more competitive game.
These are going to be numbers where Pat Mahomes just he's gonna look like a record quarterback. So 531 yards so far, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
That game's gonna be basically playing Madden on rookie mode.
Yes, Pacheco's looking at 20 carries, 93 yards, and honestly, the standout for for how do you call it for wide receiver for Chicago is DJ Moore, right? Eight receptions, 129 yards. That's about it. That's literally
Not
the highlight.
That's not great.
That's the highlight. It's just not great.
And Justin Fields had a lot of hype coming from the offseason. Like, hey, might put up MVP numbers this year if only has a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears as an organization have had the worst week. I can't think of any organization
Actually,
having that type of.
ESPN sent out a message. I think they reinstated the coach.
They did not.
No, hold on.
They said that his reasons were for inappropriate activity versus criminal activity.
Oh, I thought I got a message on that. I may be
But
wrong.
yeah, if the rumors are true about that, yikes.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, let me see. I thought I got it, but I may be wrong here. Gotta hope I'm wrong.
You're wrong. They're
Yeah.
not going to reinstate him. You don't get your house raided by the FBI and get your job back.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. Whatever. It was something from ESPN. Alan Williams resigned. Okay, yeah, he did resign. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. All right, next we got Chiefs, right? For sure.
Yeah.
Got it. All right,
Could be like 90-0.
90-0 record game. All right, the next one: Cowboys versus Cardinals.
Another snooze fest.
Yeah. The Cardinals are tanking.
They're tanking for Caleb Williams.
So I'm gonna go with Dak. Dak Prescott's got 398 yards and two touchdowns.
Cowboys are going to just blow the doors off them. It's going to be like 50-0.
Yeah.
It's going to be another repeat of the Giants.
I mean, I know without what do you call it? Without Diggs on the defense, that's a big blow for Dallas. And you're not really. I don't think you're going to see that much against the Cardinals.
When they play good teams, they don't make a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
This week, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. The Texans game is about to start shortly, so we're about to come off in a little bit.
So let's go with final predictions.
Final predictions for
The Texans and Jaguars.
Oh, sorry. Last one for today. Did we say Titans Browns? Let's just go with this. I'm going to say the Titans beat the Browns.
I'm going to go with the Browns beat the Titans.
Okay. If Ryan Tannehill,
I think Kareem Hunt's going to feast.
You think so?
I think they're going to rely more on the running game because Deshaun's just not getting it done passing the ball.
He's not. So you say Browns, I say Titans. And finally, Steelers Raiders. I'm going to say the Raiders.
Yeah, the Steelers are a mess on offense.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett, 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't see it. So Raiders for me.
Yeah, Raiders.
Raiders, okay. And all right, awesome. All right, let's make final predictions for the Texans Jaguars game today. I say Jacksonville 27, Texans 17.
I'm going to go with us pulling the upset. Those
You wanna
Vegas,
go with
those Vegas odds shifting, move the needle a little bit for me. I'm going to go Texans 35, Jaguars 28.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's our score prediction. So join us after the game for the post game reaction.
Hopefully this week no more tears of lamentation. I'm tired, boss.
Tired, yeah. So yeah, we'll do that and come join us at the. Wow, my voice is going away still.
And you were about me coughing on the mic.
Yeah, right. Join us at the Bull and Bear. We are here until after the Texans game. We are at 11980 Westheimer Road, Suite A, Houston, Texas 77077. Come join us. Have some fun with us. Hang out. All right, y'all.
Buy me a drink.
Yeah, buy Rios a drink. We'll see y'all after the game. That's going to be it. Oh, we have a comment. Who's commented? We got Platform 246. What's up? What's happening, fellas? What's up, Platform? How's it going? Appreciate you commenting, but that's going to be it for us until game time. Peace.